Hello and welcome, everyone. This is the first session in the implementers track after lunch. And as it happens, this is the grand unveiling, the world premiere of Tyk AI Studio. You're the first people in the world who are going to be seeing this for the very first time in a hands-on demo delivered by both Leo and Carlos. So you'll get to know a little bit more about what it's all about. Obviously, everyone's talking about AI. We just don't want to be a generic me too sort of a product. In this case, it's something that our customers, our end users have told us that they need in terms of delivering better AI adoption within their organization. We'll go over the nuances of that, the specific challenges, the value that you might be able to get out of it. And of course, you'll get to see the product in action, which is always exciting, especially as a developer advocate. There's nothing more exciting than a product launch or a release. So with that sort of a background, hopefully you'll keep engaging with us so far. Everyone here at Leap has been amazing. You've been actively engaging in chats and Q&A. Feel free to use the Q&A section. Feel free to use the chat if that's more convenient. We'll pick up those questions at the end. But without further ado, I'm going to hand the stage over to Carlos, who's going to give us a bit of an introduction into Tyk AI Studio, followed by Leo, who's going to take us through a demo. Take it away.
Exactly. So, we prepare a slide deck in order to show you the stuff. First of all, I want to present myself. I'm Carlos Villanua. I'm a pre-sales architect here at Tyk. And basically what I do is I pick up the different pains that you might have when implementing your software, whatever you need to have, and then exposing APIs and AI now. So what I try to do is get all those pains and then help you with a solution, right? Integrating Tyk into your platforms. And with me, we have Leo. Leo, please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Leonid. I'm head of engineering at Tyk. I'm here for quite a long time and, I work on a lot of different projects, but this one is probably the most exciting for me. It's a very personal and I'm very deeply involved into the AI right now. So yeah, we'll be very excited to demo it for you.
All right. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this. As I mentioned before, my thing is extracting those pains, understanding what is that you need to solve in order to get to efficiency. And one of the things that we see the most is when people are trying to implement or embrace AI in the companies. The first thing you see is when OpenAI arrived, people were using it for everything without having any kind of knowledge of what they were doing and sharing with outside of the company. And that is bad, right? Because at the end, your colleague was using a chatbot, and then another person was using another AI, and they were sharing very critical information that they didn't even know that it was being shared. And that takes you to the next pain point, which is basically data privacy and compliance. In Europe, for example, we have a huge compliance issue, right? Well, compliance issue, regulation. And what happened here is that you cannot share anything, and people were sharing a lot of stuff. Then workflow integration. And as Leo mentioned, he's been doing an incredible job in order to embrace that AI. And there are many things that you might have, many tools, many SaaS tools or databases that have a lot of information, like, for example, Zendesk in our case, of HubSpot, Jira, that contains a lot of data that we want to tap in a safe way, in a human achievable way, and not just by doing simple queries, but something that helps us, like a chat, for example. Of course, when it gets into using data and tools, there comes a cost. And you really need to have a nice view, a nice understanding of what kind of things you're using and how much it's costing to you. Because at the end, you can have a nice, spike spending at the end of the day. And of course, when we're talking about data, you always need to have it in a secure way, right? If you open that data into a chat, you can actually get external authors trying to get into your data. So you need to have an access control. And even inside of the company, you don't want every single department to get to the same data. So you can actually, and that's something that Leo will present later, you can actually select what kind of data people can access to. And I'm going to have a little poll now that Budha is going to launch around what kind of pains you're seeing or challenges you're seeing in your infrastructure, in your company. So if you can have a little bit of time in order to answer to that poll, it will be amazing. All right, I'm seeing the most. Actually, it's tidying up right now. All right, a lot of people voting. Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna wait. It's climbing up. All right, so I am, yeah, okay. So it's not something that I would not expect. Normally, security control and appropriate access management is the top. Integrating with existing business system or workflows is also on there, and that's something that Leo is going to be explaining. Okay, perfect. All right. So that's it. Thank you very much for taking the poll. You can see now that in the top was exactly security control and appropriate access management. And then second, integration with existing business system and workflows. Amazing. Thank you very much for participating. So now I'm going to close the pool. So what we're achieving with the AI Studio, or we want to achieve, is empowering your AI adoption, right? So your employees, your colleagues, your users are exploring AI tools proactively and without a fear of doing something wrong or sharing wrong information. Championing data privacy, you're going to be able to filter what kind of information gets outside of your company. So if, for example, there's at one point that somebody puts something that should not be shared, that's going to be filtered and capped. Streamline integration, as you mentioned, you want people to be able to access to that data that you have. Right now is raw data, and you want people to be able to access to it. And something that Leo mentioned when he was doing the demo, we were practicing, is that you can actually interact with those tools, right? So for example, if you want to create some deal in HubSpot, you can do it with a human interpretation chat, or if you want to create a Jira ticket, you can do it as well via chat. A strategic cost management, so you know how much you're spending in those tools. And then, as you mentioned, last but not least, robust security, one of the most important one for you, which is basically ensuring that the people that have access to your data is the correct one, and depending on the department, to get to the right data as well. So we're going to do another poll around this part, what kind of value you want to achieve, and then we'll jump into the demo. All right. Audit trails and compliance reporting is one of the top ones. Second best is centralized AI portal with usage monitoring. Interesting that the integration is now second. Centralized AI portal with usage monitoring still top. So we know that Leo will be focusing in that part as well. Thank you very much for voting. So yeah, top one, centralized AI portal with usage monitoring. Second, audit trails and compliance reporting. And then third, integration capabilities with tools like Jira and Dex as HubSpot. Amazing. And then others. All right, perfect. So thank you very much. I'm going to close now the pool. And Leo is going to have an amazing demo around AI Studio. As Budha told you, this is the first time we're exposing this externally, even though we use it a lot internally. Leo, take it away. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for the intro. Right, so I'm going to kind of like show you day of life of the Tyk employee. And like we as a Tyk, we seriously invest into the AI, into the tooling. And you know, like the thing is right now, if you can't keep up with the market, with AI, etc., you will be out of the market. And like we invest into the people, into the tooling, into the learning. And it's very important for us and for me especially, like as a head of engineering, that all of my engineers, for example, will get access to the latest AI tooling. They will be as efficient as possible and also as secure as possible. And the thing is that you know, like it's like with the students, like you may ask like them like have you actually used AI for the like for your exams or similar? No one will directly tell you they do, but 99% of them actually do. The same applies to the employees. So like if you don't give them some official tools to interact with AI, they will go on the site. They will go to the ChatGPT, to Perplexity or similar, and it will be all over the internet. You will not be able to control it, govern it, etc. So here's, for example, how it looks for the Tyk as an employee. So this is like a standard one login portal, some single sign-on solution, which many of you can have. Like Tyk AI Studio is just like one of the many services which our employees can access, and like our IT administrators can essentially like control the access, who has access to what. And I need to actually okay, single sign-on a bit worked. Right. So I'm right now seeing view of my dashboard, and I'm administrator here. And it's like you need to clearly understand that basically there are like three users mainly who will interact with this system. It's administrators who can see the analytics, whatever happening in my company, the costs, the actual people who will use the chat, for example, to communicate with your private data, with your models, and AI portal, your developers who wants to have API keys to work with the latest SDKs, code editors, and so on. And I will go through all of these parts one by one. So as me, like as a administrator, it's very, first of all, important, as mentioned, like see the usage. How many actually active users daily I have in my chats, how many interactions daily, how many price actually. So like you can see that's like we are burning billions of tokens. We are using the AI a lot, including for the engineering, and with code AI editors, and our engineers like empowered like and have their own API tokens. And I can literally go and check each engineers, for example, he's Leo, and how much it's spending, a lot. So, but I'm also doing a lot. It's amazing. It's almost like a additional working perk to have official access to the latest AI tooling. And one of the as I mentioned, like we are actually like UK company. We are working with governments, with enterprise customers, etc. And we actually have a lot of compliance which we need to do, which means that we need to have the proper login access. Each vendor needs to be IT verified by IT, and so on. So when we like think about like vendors, basically there's like a lot of them right now, and each of them has a bazillion of different models. And when it comes to the compliance, especially part, and there are so many nuances. We as a UK company, for example, we can comply relatively easy to the Anthropic because they have the UK presence. And like for us, it's like easy, and like we allowed using it for private data. But for OpenAI, for example, we didn't allow to use it for the private data by IT, but we are allowed to use it for the public data. And like or for some other like things which doesn't involve like a private one, specifically like O1 models or similar. And for the Anthropic, for example, we, like as I mentioned, we allow to, and if I go to, I can see for each model how much I use it, like which actual models I use it, cost per each, like all the utilizations you can imagine, including like does it use a prompt caching or not, and how effective it is, which is actually, like if you're using it for the code editing, it's actually a huge factor. And also what is important, you can actually set the budget, monthly budget for each language model, for each application. So you will be able to sell it like each developer can't spend more than $100 per month, whatever they do. If they do, like I'm as administrator, you can see the badge here, can receive notification that's like something is weird happening here, and our AI proxy will stop this user. Also important to understand that we have a bit different approach rather to other vendors who implement the AI proxy, where other vendors try to implement it on top of the existing API management system. We decided that like it will be much better in native way to actually have it as a separate product, because it has so many different notions. It's like even like, for example, when it comes to the tokens, like it doesn't make sense to rate limit by the token amount, because like you at least have like 4 different token types, like and things like that. And this is like a much more native way to work with AI. So with and it's easy to add new models. You can, like we have like support for a lot of different vendors, including the, for example, Vertex AI, Google AI, etc. So like you can connect your private and deploy your private models. As I mentioned, you can set the monthly budget. And what is interesting, you can set the privacy level. What it is. privacy is basically, as I mentioned to you, can be, for example, like a public, private, PI data, and confidential data. But for you as a company, you decide by yourself what's your privacy level. In this case, it's a number. So where we use it? We use it everywhere where your language model communicates with some other tools or some other data sources. So for example, you can have a data source, like which is a Tyk documentation, which is our public data. And like we can use it with any model, like OpenAI, for example. So whenever you will try to use data source with OpenAI or any other model, no issues. But our internal Stack Overflow, on the other hand, is do contain some private data, some customer names, etc. And like we want to be very careful with it. So whenever you will try to expose data source through the portal or through the chat, etc., if you will try to use OpenAI model, it will give you error that basically like you have like a privacy violation. You can't use this model with this data source. And that's like a very important concept. And we are very flexible and allow you to configure like various stuff, like including the prices. So for example, we had a case with one of the like prospects where they have a custom deal with OpenAI and the custom prices. So like you can actually, like customize all the stuff. You can set custom data. So yeah, it's up to you. Whenever a new model arrive, some cost drop or similar, you can adjust it and your dashboard will be up to date. So we covered the language models. Now the actual data sources. So data sources is, in this case, like we're talking about as a vector sources and file-based sources. So for vector sources, we do support, like a variety of the databases, which is currently like popular on the market. You can ingest this data like or as you wish. For example, we have some regular cron job which ingest latest Tyk documentation in this like a database, so like we will be able to use it in a nice way in our internal chats. And then we also have tools, and tools is amazing, and that's like probably my favorite part of it, because you as a company, you have a lot of private data. You have a HubSpot, Jira, Confluence, etc. So like having just like a chat where you can do some, like a question answer is fine, and maybe it can work for like maybe content marketing, like generate me some like tweets or similar. But when you're coming to some serious work, you actually want to do, like a more complex stuff. You know what? I actually will show you some cool thing here. So I have a chats here. So let me actually go to the chat, and it's actually some experimental, like we're also like everyone doing the agents right now, right? So like agents is exciting, and they can do the work for you. And actually we at one day, quite soon actually, a lot of our work will be uploaded to the agents. And let me do so. Help me to understand state of the POC for Acme company. I created some like a more company, obviously, so you will not see some private data. And find all the Zendesk tickets and Jira assigned to it. And summary the state. So how long it will take to you to actually like go to all of the systems, gather all this data, and actually provide the summary? And like we are running our agent, and while it's doing the job for us, we will go and do something else. So let's continue. Tools. So tools, in case of the like a Tyk AI Studio, implemented in the similar way as custom GPTs in OpenAI, if you know, like if you worked with it previously, and they are based on the OpenAPI spec, essentially. So if you have a HTTP service, it can be easily converted to the tool, which can be used into the chat. So if, for example, I will show you example tool, it's like a SERP API, which is a popular engine for the searching the Google. It's just like an OpenAPI spec, where like nothing's really special here. So, and it automatically parses it, it knows how to use it. You just need to have the proper description, which will be passed to the AI model. And that's all you need to know. And also cool thing about this is that it doesn't matter what kind of model you have behind it. It's like a OpenAI, Cloudy, something else. Like a Tyk AI Studio handles this like a conversion layer, how like a different models treat, for example, this tooling, the protocol format, and this kind of stuff. And also, for example, it contains some like more complex things. You can say that like, okay, you can search the Google, but the actual value comes from not just searching the Google, but actually extracting the pages content out of it. So it actually has a dependent tool like web scraper, which is actually just one more tool. In this case, fire crawl, which allows us to crawl the pages. And yeah, you can see where it's going. And the powerful thing behind these tools that it's you can add them in matter of like 10 minutes or similar. You can ask chat to actually generate your OpenAPI spec like for some service, and you can combine them. You can in the same chat you can use multiple tools. You can like I say like find me this Zendesk ticket, extract from this Jira tickets, and like give me the summary. You know like all the stuff. And you know like it kind of like now makes sense when people like start like talking that like a SaaS model is going to be dead, because like you kind of like exposing all the stuff to the AI and chats, etc., and you start communicating with all the services very differently. And it's also like empower your users like to be more creative. So, and now we have interesting concept filters. So like you want to, for example, have a way to anonymize the data or like block some data and similar. And filters essentially use some scripting language, which where you either can, like define some your logic, or you can call some HTTP APIs, or you can actually call some another LLM. So let's say you have some like a fast and compliant LLM, maybe even Llama deployed locally, and you can actually call it and with this prompt to say like, does this data look like PI data? And if yes, it will block, like, and will not send it to the another LLM. Or you can have a set of some like a regex, for example, or similar, where it's like a if you want to. And also, all it comes with the full airbag features. So basically, I can say what kind of like tools is accessible to whom. I can have a group of the users, like for example, commercial users or like a solution architects and so on. So it's like a very flexible. And now AI portal, it's actually also quite cool. So I'm using this like for coding this daily. So and it's my IDE right now. It's like a visual code with a clean extension, which is amazing by the way. It's just connected to our AI proxy, and it's trustworthy using it. And I can use it the API tokens generated from here. So like here's for example my application which I actually use. You can see it exposed some API endpoints like for the proxy, and you can use this API key. And you can use it with Anthropic SDK or OpenAI SDK. And it's also cool feature unified endpoint. So basically, no matter what is your language model behind it, you can use OpenAI SDK or OpenAI compatible something to use it with any model which is supported inside the Tyk AI Studio. So, and as I mentioned, like our developers, our users can actually go to this portal, they can self-serve, they can request access, and I can see the notifications about it. I will be able to approve, set the budget, etc. So everything is tracked and like audited, and all of it, like as I mentioned, like it goes through audit. And if I'm as administrator, I will go to the same section of the applications, and I will actually go. Ooh, it's a lot of tests here. So let me try. I need to find some realistic model actually. Yeah, this one probably. Yeah, I'm using it a lot. So I can see the analytics individually for each application, for each user, and I also can see the logs, like so like for the audit, and I can export this log somewhere else, for example, to like for example to the S3. Like unlikely I will be like going log through the log, but for the compliance reasons, maybe I have to actually store them for some period of time. And now regarding actually, I just forgot that we had the agentic work here. Right, so, and we need to press this button. So like it went to the Zendesk, it did some work, actually a lot of work. And here's the status. Based on Zendesk tickets and Jira issues, here's the current state, this is completed, this is in progress, and so on. So as I mentioned, like how much time it will actually, like you will need to actually do it manually. So that's quite crazy that like we can, like do this kind of work just like with a simple query. And you can see we have a bunch of tools available. I, as an admin, obviously I have access to all the tools, but you can mix and match them. You can say like a search in the internet for for example, for competitor feature, then go to our documentation and compare how it actually compares to our feature, and then prepare me some utilization. And one of the tools which I'm working on right now is a GitHub integration, specifically to our documentation, which will allow to open us automatically pull requests and, like, for example, improve the docs or chat with the code is another like things which you're working on. So many possibilities, so many possibilities here. And again, everyone can just like go to the like a login page, open AI Studio, and it's free, available to everyone in the company. So I guess we can stop here in terms of like a demo. It's a lot of stuff to process and show. But if you have some specific questions, let me know, Carlos. I'm not sure if you followed the comments or similar. You are muted.
There you go. Yeah, I muted myself, so whatever. So yes, we do have a question that came in. Can you use the filters to protect against prompt injection?
Yes. So, well, I mean, there are two types, two ways how you can do that. Well, first of all, you can add it to the base model prompt or similar if you're talking about the chat. If you're talking about the actual proxy, for example, when someone uses it, then you can use it in the filter. How you define the rule, it can be as a static rule where like you try to reject with reject or similar, find out, etc. Or it can be another language model with a simple prompt, like basically, does it look like a prompt injection, like a user tries to override the system prompt? If yes, then reject. So this way you can write the filter.
Okay. Any other questions that you might have, you can write in the chat or in the QA. Oh, there's actually a poll already. Thank you, Budha.
Hey, folks. Sorry, I thought I'd come back in. Great presentation, by the way, Leo. I almost feel like this is like a bit of a teaser, an extended teaser, because I feel like there's a little bit more time that we might be able to provide for people.
Yeah.
So,
You'll be amazed with where the agents part will be coming soon. So
exactly. There's a question, I think, which is a very pertinent question, which is it available for external users to try out today? I believe the answer is you can sign up, Leo.
yes. So right now we are in the stage where we show it to the selected set of the users, like a beta users. So like as soon there will be more public, like a binaries, licenses or similar. But if you're interested, we are super happy to chat with you, to give you some personalized demo and so on.
Thank you for the chat. There is another question here, which is currently Git integration low priority compared to Jira. Is that a choice on our end, or how do we view that?
Ooh, that's a good question. To be frank, I'm AI advocate inside the company, and I'm trying to, maintain a list of all of the possible use cases inside the company, what people actually want to use it, etc. And the most common use case is actually, like a chat with my data, or like a and when we're talking about the data, not just files, like for example, Confluence or similar, everyone hates to be the person who constantly gets asked like how to do this, how to do that, etc. So we are building the specific rooms for people in the DevOps, in the Marcoms, etc., where people first ask, and if AI doesn't know the answer, then they ask the human and update the docs. So that's like a most regarding the JIT integration. So as I mentioned, it's JIT mostly interested, I mean, first of all, to the developers. If you're talking about like integration with AI editors, etc., you can already pick the API token, and as I showed you in the VS Code, it integrates with all this modern AI editors and works there just fine. If you're talking about like a consumer use of the JIT or GitHub, there are like a more consumer way cases like documentation. So our documentation is hosted on the static server on the GitHub. So you can write the pull request and change some page. So from this point of view, we are going to have, like a tool to actually, create the read and create pull requests, etc. Also, we do have like a other ways to integrate with GitHub, in a sense that's like automatic code reviews or things like that. And it's actually using this AI proxy and API token to talk with the AI model, but it has some specific GitHub action which is configured to review your code. So through this, it's actually already integrated.
All right. We are at time, unfortunately. I have a feeling we might be running a longer version of this session at some time in the future, but I have shared a link where you can get in touch with us about this, find out more information about it as well. It's in the chat. So hopefully you get to learn a little bit more. Hopefully this was a great introduction to the Tyk AI Studio. It is still early days. I think we are evolving. We are looking for a little bit more feedback. And, if there is something that you specifically care about, do feel free to reach out. As Leo said, he is our resident AI evangelist and expert at this point, with great support from Carlos and team as well. So thank you everyone for joining. This has been fantastic. We do have a 5-minute break before we head into our next group of sections. On one side, we're going to be talking about federated API management in the decision makers track. And on the implementers track, for the very first time, we're going to be having lightning talks. These are going to be 3 back-to-back sessions on sustainability, AI once more, and Auth the OpenID project, if you're not aware of that. So if you're curious about all of that, if you're curious about specifically federated API management, I'll see you there. But till then, take care. Thank you so much. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Leo.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.